just a couple bad weather fans representing New York, talking all things sports. Man, what could go wrong? We got Alex, who's a fan of the Knicks, and Mike of the Nets. The yin-yang of the tri-state, place your bets on the Yankees, Giants, Mets, or Jets. Yeah, you should listen if it's sparking your interest. If you made a vow to your team, don't break it. Bad weather fans is the relation.
That's right, this is Bad Weather Fans, episode number 227. Mike Biseglia, Alex Manisowitz, and we are presented by DraftKings. And I know it's been a week off, and people were speculating that after episode 226, things got heated when we discussed the Mikal Bridges to the Knicks trade. My DMs were flooding. Is the show over? Well, we talked about it offline. We were contemplating. No, I'm just kidding. What's up, Alex? Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. Yeah, make sure you subscribe, follow, like everything. And Mike had to beg me to come back, but I ended up coming back. And
thank you so much.
We renegotiated our contracts, and we're good to go.
We'll have a fun episode here. It's the summer month, so we got a lot of good guests planned that we've been working hard on behind the scenes. That we excited and hope to roll out as the summer months continue. Also, as we hit the summer, we'll have a little more fun, sprinkle in non-net Knicks stuff and have some net Knick game type memories and things like that, which we're going to do our top 5 games that we've ever been to in person. It could be non-net and Knick. We'll get to any sporting event that Alex and I have been to in person. We're going to rank those 5 to 1 in just a matter of moments. But first, before we get there, Alex, the news last week that broke is Jalen Brunson re-signing and taking less money. Let me start with this. Because I know your opinion on it, but this is something not talked about as much. Lay out for the people why this helps the Knicks in the long term, beyond just, well, he's a really nice guy.
Well, there's I'm not going to sit here and explain the CBA because I honestly
just
don't
on the
understand
general
it
sense.
Completely. The general sense of the CBA, which I understand, is that there's different aprons, and if you hit different aprons, you get penalized different things you can do in the draft. Your pick gets locked to the last pick in the draft as a certain apron. You can't make sign and trades. Like if you watch what's happening with the Suns, they're way over and they're gambling and risking it all because they have a crazy roster of high salary talent. So Jalen Brunson took $113 million less by extending now and not waiting until next year. Because if he waited until next year and opted out, he can re-sign and get $113 million more. So he extended now early to save the Knicks some money and to stay under the apron so the Knicks can afford OG Anunoby. So they may be able to afford Julius Randle, who they are talking to about extensions, or they may not be talking about extensions. They may trade him. They may have to trade him because of the apron situation. We have to see. They may be going all in for 1 year. So Jalen Brunson essentially is risking it all again in his career to try to win a championship in New York City. And, he's a great guy for that, and he knows that he's taking the Tom Brady route. He knows that winning championships and being the man in a big city, you can make so much more money off the court and off the playing field that it doesn't matter what your contract is. And to get every last dollar from your contract, you can get it off the floor and probably make it triple if you start winning. And there's also rumors that Mark Stein reported that on October 1st, as early as that, Mikal Bridges may do the same thing and take a discount. So the Knicks are all in. They're trying to win a championship, and it's very exciting. And people need to stop framing it as Jalen Brunson is choosing between generational wealth and playing with his friends, because that's not what's happening. He has generational wealth. When this contract is up, he'll have about $243 million. I think that's generational wealth. And then in 4 years or whenever it is, when this contract is up, he can get the Supermax,
right?
Which should be like $8 bajillion, whatever that is. So that's just nonsense. But Knicks are going all in, and they're all, giving up money to do it. And, it's exciting to be a Knicks fan.
Yeah. So with that in mind, and thank you for all of that, Alex, I do really appreciate it, that this doesn't give the Knicks flexibility to sign free agents. They can't add other stuff. It just gives them a little more flexibility down the road when they need to do something to help their team go in for it all. And also, as you alluded to, Jalen Brunson, when this deal runs out, I can guarantee you that his next contract, he will not be doing the same, and he will go for whatever is
Yeah, and that's fine. Win a
which is
championship.
fine, which is
Yeah,
fine.
or who
But I don't.
cares?
I think
Yeah.
it gets lost with
Yeah.
everybody's excitement because they're like, build the statue, but there's not all of a sudden this magical cap space for the
Right.
Knicks where they can, maneuver and bring in somebody else of
Well,
high level. I mean, it does
they could
give
help
them
them bring back Precious Achua, somebody like that on the
right.
back end of the roster right now.
Right.
So
But
go ahead. Sorry.
I just,
Yeah.
you just see this like, oh my God, look at all. I mean, it's helpful and it will be very helpful for the Knicks in a pivotal spot, which I'm sure I don't even know what it is. A trade at the deadline, bringing in a core
Backup.
player
Yeah.
later, that whatever it might be. But let's all relax on the idea of like now the Knicks are set up with all of this cap space. I just I can't take that kind of stuff. It's a helpful tool for the Knicks, but by no means does it mean that they have all this incredible flexibility with the roster. I mean, the roster is what it is. And also, I will say for the Knicks fans that are upset they don't have a backup center, who cares right now? If the Knicks are going for a championship, it's going to be about what the roster looks like in April and May. I don't know why you have to have an answer right now about that spot. Fill it out when you get there. Figure it out. You see how the season goes. Look at the trades the Knicks made at the deadline last year. They added pieces that they felt would help in the playoffs. I mean, those Alec Burks ended up probably being the best piece, not because of Bojan getting hurt. So I just think, cool a little bit on what the Knicks do moving forward. I would be stunned, especially if this is a team that's competing for a championship, that at the deadline now, they're one of those teams that's going to be looking to add pieces down the stretch that help their championship roster. So I don't necessarily think you need to have an answer now for not signing a backup center, but I do think at some point that will need to be addressed down the road.
Right. There could be a buyout market that gives you some extra cap flexibility on the buyout market. You also have these kids in the summer league that are big guys that look good. You have Jericho Sims still on the roster that can give you 5-10 minutes. I know he's, a little aloof, I'll put it nicely, on the floor. He has all the talent in the world to be like a Dwight Howard, but he just in his mind, and he just doesn't have it sometimes. He just loses focus. But I think Knicks fans like myself, I can't speak for all Knicks fans, but I believe that this is how most feel, that once they bring back Precious Achua, I think I'll relax a little bit more on the the big man roster, because at least I know he can come in and give us minutes. He's not, tall. Yeah, he's not. He doesn't give you the size that you need. But as long as Mitchell Robinson stays healthy, which is always a big if,
I mean,
the
he
Knicks will
won't
be fine, and he won't. And Julius Randle will be back, so I mean that'd be nice, But like, there's potential, and the team is still a championship team with or without a backup center. So that's just what I feel. So
well, I mean, you mentioned this, and I'll use your words that the Knicks have two starting centers when they go into the playoffs. You said that, not me. So I remember that
they did,
and now they don't. So
now
I
they don't.
think that hurts a little bit. I don't want to. I said last time on this podcast when we were both enraged that I don't think it prevents them from going for a title, but I do think each season has its own little different twists and turns that happen, and obviously this Knicks DNA this next season is going to be a little different. I mean, Isaiah was a huge part of the Knicks team. There's no doubt about that. I mean, he was a huge part of all of their success. So it's a loss, but they get a guy back in Mikal Bridges, who is excellent player. So the look will be different, but I wouldn't go into this year with if Mitch Robinson stays healthy. It's when Mitch Robinson gets hurt. I mean, it just always happens. OG Anunoby always gets hurt. So I saw it from my end, from the Nets team. It's like, well, when Kyrie Irving does something, well, maybe he won't this year. It always happened. When Kevin Durant, maybe he won't get hurt. It happened. So
that's fair. But you know what? I always compared. Sorry to cut you off. I don't know if you were done or not, but Mitchell Robinson. Oh, go ahead.
But it's fine.
Go ahead.
No,
I don't want to cut you off and start arguing again.
I'm not done to argue. Go for it. I'm good. I'm just playing with you.
Now I forgot what I was going to say.
No, I was just saying that when OG, I mean, these guys always do get hurt. I don't know if it's going to be 27 games or 31 games, but
I got it. Yeah.
I can guarantee you that OG Anunoby's not playing 82 games this year. It's going to be somewhere between 50 and 60.
Right. But you know what? I always compare Mitchell Robinson to Marcus Camby. And Marcus Camby early in his career, not so much with the Raptors, but with the Knicks, he was hurt a lot. And it was almost every season he was hurt. And for like 2 straight years, he was hurt, and suspensions with the fight. with him. So the Knicks, people forget that. I'm not defending the trade of for Antonio McDyess and trading Camby and Nene for Antonio McDyess. Like I'm not not McDyess. Whatever the trade was, I'm blanking. Yeah, it wasn't McDyess. Okay, I'm sorry.
I don't
It's
remember.
6:30 in the morning. So yeah, no, it wasn't McDyess trade. And I'm not defending that trade, one of the worst trades in Knicks history. But Marcus Camby wasn't exactly healthy for years leading into that trade. And Nene was a rookie. Like nobody knew he was going to be this like 10, 15-year pro.
He was a good pro.
So Mitchell Robinson right now could be going into that second back end of what Marcus Camby did with the Nuggets, where he became one of the all-time best shot blockers of all time. Like, he set records for single season block shots, and Mitchell Robinson may be coming into that and becoming healthy. And maybe the Knicks will have that, because some of these injuries are not, his back hurts, his knee hurts. It's not that. It's not Ben Simmons injuries. It's, freak things. You know what I mean? It's almost like Travis Darno with the Mets, where he was always hurt. Then he goes to the Braves and he's never hurt. Like it's that kind of stuff where he gets hit in the wrist with the ball. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's like things like that. Like it's just bad luck. So I would hope that, things can work out. But you know what? They also have some of these rookies that are coming in. They have a second round pick, from the Mavericks last year, Hakaporti, who's on the summer league team, and maybe he's good. And they have another guy that's the kid from Ukraine. So you never know what's going to happen with these guys. Like the Knicks have been good at getting these back end of the second round picks. So.
Now you're in the weeds now of talking about the stuff the title teams talk about, right?
Right.
The backup center position. How do we absorb the loss of Hartenstein, which was so important for us when Mitchell Robinson was hurt, and everything that he provided at that center position, his passing from the paint in and out, these little floaters, all that stuff, right? You're getting into the minutia, the details of it, which for you is a good problem to have. Where on the Nets side, you're talking about development. You're talking about draft picks. And Nets beat the Knicks in the summer league. Jalen Wilson scores 15 of his 27 points in the fourth quarter. And for Net fans, he was one of the rookies that was on this team last year that played pretty well. Had a good rookie year for coming out of, I believe, was a late second round pick with Sean Marks. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know it wasn't a first round pick. If it was undrafted, a late second round, but Sean Marks has done a great job with finding players late. That's been his best attribute as the GM. Jared Allen, Karis LeVert, Nick Claxton, Noah Clowney now. I mean, he just finds guys late in the draft. He does a really good job with it. And Jalen Wilson scores 27 in the summer league game. And I think for Net fans, I'm not saying anything crazy here, but the hope is that Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith are traded so that he can get minutes. And Alex, my concern with the Nets now is they're not bad enough. Right now, they lost Mikal Bridges, but that's not enough to be awful. They were awful with him, and he was terrible for the Nets last year. If you watched Mikal on the Nets, he was bad. He was very bad. And when at the end of the season, when he barely played, Nets were better. So I'm not saying the Nets are going to be better without him because they lose a lot. But I'm just saying for the grand scheme of this, we want to be in the top 3 and try to, get Cooper flagged. They're not bad enough yet. Dennis Schroeder's on the roster. He helped. Again, I'm not talking about winning a title. I'm talking about they're going to win too many games. Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, Schroeder. They just have too many guys right now to not be awful. And eventually, I don't know when this will happen in the time or Bojan Bogdanovic. These are pros, not great players, but pros. They need to get rid of these guys and trade them so that they can get worse and let more of the young players like Jalen Wilson, Noah Clowney. Those are the guys that Derek Whitehead, who's been completely awful in the summer league. These are the guys that have to get minutes. So hopefully they'll be traded because they're going to win 30 games.
Yeah, but you know what? Be careful because you don't have to be the worst team to get the top pick anymore. The Knicks proved that in the Zion year. There's a lot that, it does guarantee you a top 4 pick. So that's, the benefit
top 5
of that.
Now.
Top 5? Oh, not even top 4. So
the Pistons keep getting screwed. No, I agree with you.
So
but you still don't want to.
You keep talking. I have to fix my shade, but keep talking.
I thought you were saying you're giving me some shade. I understand that, and you're right. The NBA has done that, so now there's no guarantee at all. But at the same time, you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're ninth, 10th, 11th in the lottery. I don't
Right.
think that gives you the chances. And I do think eventually Sean Marks will make the trades. I think he just knows right now in this moment, there's no reason to do it. And maybe he's thinking, all right, we get to the trade deadline and someone like Cam Johnson, who could provide a lot of value to a championship team, going for it all. A guy that can shoot threes, play some defense, bigger size. Maybe he gets more value then. But eventually, these guys can't be on the roster. It just doesn't make any sense. You can't trade Mikal for all those assets and not continue to do it. So my hunch is, and I think that it just Sean Marks is waiting for the right time to do it. I just hope it's sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, training camp doesn't start for another 2 months, 3 months. So, I think something will come soon. I feel like there's another couple dominoes in the NBA that are going to fall.
True.
The Bulls still have Zach LaVine and Vucevic. I know they're said there's no value out there, but there's always someone that'll take them. You know what I mean? I think the new CBA is scaring teams away from going over the hard cap, and
yeah,
I think that's a big problem. And we'll see. I mean, I think the Nets can make some deals, and I think Cam Johnson's one of those guys, but he does have a big contract, so I think that he might be stuck with him. So, and Nick Claxton is there too, but
well, they just re-signed Nick, and
yeah,
I don't mind
that's what I
re-signing
mean,
Nick because you do need some players.
He's young,
and at this point now, Simmons is going to be, what Simmons will come off the books next year, which is huge for this,
right?
Which is just huge for trying to build a roster when you have $40 million in sunk costs on him.
Yeah, for sure.
And he'll play 8 games, and we'll go through that song and dance, and then he'll be hurt.
Yeah.
All right, Alex, you want to do this?
Can I ask you one question first?
So, is it Nets related?
It is Nets related.
All right, then yes.
It's Knicks Nets related. So there's one player in that Mikal Bridges trade that came over to the Knicks that I don't think many Knicks fans know about. Keita Bates-Diop.
Yeah.
Will he give the Knicks anything, or is he just complete nothing on the team? What's his style of play?
I don't know. He didn't play. I mean, he barely played when the Nets got him this last.
Only 14 games.
I have no idea. Honestly,
okay.
If he's playing for your team, I think something went really wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like something did not go right for the Knicks roster. They have too many good players for him not to play.
Right. All right. He did start for the Spurs a bunch of games a couple of years ago and stuff like that. He is kind of young. So, well, not young. He's 29, 28. So maybe he'll just be you never know, because a lot of these guys that Leon Rose gets end up being contributors, like Precious Achua.
True.
Just like whatever. So you never know. So
you never know.
Whatever.
No, I can't
just
say
curious.
that, but it was he played mop
forgotten guy
in the Nets for 2 minutes here and there. I mean, it was nothing.
Okay,
but that doesn't mean he goes to the Knicks where they the culture is so good. Guys have
pixie dust.
Guys have podcasts that do really well. I mean, you never know.
If Bates-Diop has a podcast, the Knicks are winning the championship this year.
You could have a podcast. I don't think it'd be
if it's a popular podcast. Yeah, if it's a popular podcast,
right? I don't think it's going to be top 10 in the Apple charts like Jalen Brunson's, Josh Hart's.
Hey, we're charting too, man. Look at us. So,
we chart. They're just
not chart, but we chart.
It is a weird word to say. All right.
Anyway,
let's do our top 5. So here's how it works. Alex and I are going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and list out our top 5 sporting events that we've ever been to in person. This is more than just the NBA. So, of course, MLB, NFL. I know Alex goes to a lot of MLS games. So whatever it might be, we'll get into those. Alex, do you want to go first, or would you like me to go first? I'll throw it to you. I'll let you go first.
You want me to go first? Okay.
Yeah. So number 5.
Number 5. All right. So the first 2010, I've talked about this game. Knicks, Tracy McGrady's first game with the Knicks. Right after the big trade, they added Tracy McGrady, Sergio Rodriguez, and everybody. And it was a game that my friends and I bought tickets for months in advance because we wanted to see the young Thunder players of Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Ibaka, and it happened to be the first game. And the person I wanted to interview, we actually have interviewed on this podcast, and Trace McGrady. So I'll say another player that I would want to interview is actually Russell Westbrook, because I just want to pick his brain, and I think he's one of the best, most unappreciated players in NBA history.
He would be fun to have on.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's cool. No, that's funny though. You're like, yeah, we actually had him on, and his name was Tracy McGrady. And
Yep.
I've heard you talk about that game. I'm actually really interested to hear yours in order too, because we've talked about them here and there, but we've never officially gone like, what was your favorite of all time?
Right.
So
Right. And I have
I'm
some
curious to
honorable
hear.
mention
I
games as well,
I
but
have one, yeah. I have an
and
honorable mention too.
but I
But
also the funniest thing, last thing on this game, if you go on YouTube and you type in Trace McGrady Knicks starting lineup, and you'll see me Twitter and everything like that posting the starting lineup from that game, and the crowd went absolutely bonkers for Tracy McGrady, like
that's
it was
cool.
Patrick
Yeah.
Ewing. So
Right.
it was a really really fun game. So
Nice. No, it
okay,
is funny when you watch. I did watch a little bit of some of these on YouTube, and I'm like, can I find myself in the crowd? Can I see 14-year-old Mike somewhere?
yeah,
My number five will be 1994 Nets versus Rockets. This was the second Nets game I ever went to. The first Net game I went to was Nets versus Bullets, but the second game I went to, I remember really well. In this game, it was in 1993 and it was Drazen Petrovic's career high. He scored 44 points. He scored 16 of which in the fourth quarter. The final score was 100-83, and it was a different NBA. So I think 44 points then had a little more special meaning than it does now. And I
right.
remember this game in particular because I went with my friend and his dad. And I remember going into the fourth quarter, he had 28 points. Or in the beginning, no, let me say this. It was in the beginning of the game. So I was like, Drazen's going to do 40. And my friend's dad was like, no way. And then he did it. I'll never forget that. And I do remember that game vividly. And I think more than anything, it really got me started hooked onto the Nets. So it was my youngest game I remember, and definitely an impactful one for me. So I'll go number five with Drazen. And
So that's why you
Nets
hate the
Rockets.
Knicks, because their first season will go into Nets games is with the year the Knicks beat the Nets in the playoffs, right? So
I don't. That's probably has something to do with it. And to answer, I mean, obviously, I would love to have interviewed Drazen, but he,
he
unfortunately,
passed.
of course, passed away. But I would say next, would have to be Akeem Olajuwon because it's Akeem Olajuwon. And you could,
Yeah,
how
yeah.
much
It's
fun would
Hakeem
that be?
Olajuwon.
It's Akeem Olajuwon. So
I think Derek Coleman would be a lot of fun just because he's a
DC
wild
would be
person.
good.
Yeah,
DC would be good too. Yeah, DC
yeah,
doesn't do many interviews.
yeah. No, he doesn't. He kind of just faded away after his career. But
Does
all
some
right,
Syracuse alumni stuff here and there, but
I'm
you don't
sure.
really hear about him. Yeah.
I'm sure. Okay, you ready? Number four. Number
Number.
four. Knicks Sixers playoff game from this year.
Oh
Like
yeah.
that. I mean, that was insane. Going with our boy Mike Boodalicious at Boodalicious on Twitter. It was a lot of fun
Yeah.
going into game 6, going into Philly. The crowd, they're giving out free tickets to stop the Knicks from going games at 9 o'clock, and we get there in the middle of the day, and it was an all day great epic day. And I don't have to explain it. Everybody remembers it. It was close enough time.
Oh yeah.
And the guy I would love to interview from that game is obviously, besides, I'm going to say besides Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart and Knicks, because he's a Long Island guy and I'm a Long Island guy. He's from my wife's hometown, actually. And I just want to know what it was like coming out of Long Island and getting into the NBA. I want you like that whole thing would just be fascinating to me.
It was like someone muted you when you said the name. I have no, your mic. It was just the internet. Don't worry, you're good. It was just
Tobias Harris.
That's what I thought when I got
Tobias
the context around it, but I want to make sure that people
right.
heard it. It was like it disappeared for a split second.
Okay, well, Tobias Harris is the guy I want to interview because he's
Cool.
from Long Island.
Anyway, he would be fun, and he just made a boatload of money in Detroit.
The guy secures his bag, man. Say what you want about him. He's made a lot of money in his career.
Number four for me. Number four, 2003. Notre Dame versus Syracuse at the Carrier Dome. I believe in this game, it was the first time Syracuse beat a top 10 ranked opponent at home since like 1994. They were trailing in this game, and Jerry McNamara hit a 3 late to put them up 1 with like 12 seconds left. Everybody rushed the court. Then there was something that went wrong, and everybody had to rush the court a second time because there was still time on the clock. So they had to get everybody off, and everybody rushed again, which was just it was just for me, as I was really getting into college basketball that year. Syracuse went on to win the championship. It was such a fun experience rushing the court at the Carrier Dome. So I'll get that at number 4. And I'd love to talk to Carmelo Anthony.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So,
that's the guy.
And it's not because of a Knick game. Just saying that right now, and people for context.
Yeah, that must suck being a Syracuse guy and then having to hate Melo.
I never hated Melo. I mean, honestly, at that time, Alex, when the Knicks got really good with Melo, I lived in Virginia, and and then I don't think there was as much of a dislike it like that in that era of my life. The Nick disdain tempered down. It's been ratcheted back up, but it was like it was strong as a kid, dissipated a little then, and I always loved Carmelo. Winning a national championship was incredible.
Right. That makes sense. Okay, so number 3 for me, Mets Braves first game after 9/11. I was in the building.
Wow.
So my parents always bought, we always went to maybe 5 or 6 Mets games a year, and they would buy them. This is pre-internet. Well, the internet existed, but it was like pre-StubHub, pre-easy to get tickets. They just would buy a package once a year, and we'd go to a bunch of Mets games, and we all loved, baseball and everything like that. And, it just so happened that one of the games was the first game after 9/11.
That's crazy.
And it was nuts. And being in the building for that, the emotions, every time a cop and somebody walked by, people would just give them a standing ovation. It was just insane. Liza Minnelli came out and sang, song, some America songs. I don't remember which one she sang, but it was nuts. And the Piazza home run, I hate to admit it, but I was paying attention, and then I kind of looked off for a second, and then I heard the crack of the bat, and I saw the ball flying out, and I missed the fucking swing. So I'm sitting in the crowd, and I missed the swing. I saw the ball fly out, and the emotions of the moment, everybody going nuts, but like I missed the moment, that one pitch. I just, you just daze off sometimes in a baseball game, even, what I mean? And this is before cell phones, so I can't even be like, I was browsing Twitter. I like literally.
My joke was going to be is you were just looking at your phone, hoping Twitter would
exist.
Would exist. Where are you?
Yeah, no, and that's my number 3 for me.
Oh, that's an awesome one. So 2 and 1 must be pretty good. That's an amazing moment.
Yeah.
My number 3 is also a Mets game. It was 1999. NLCS Mets Braves. It was not game 5, which was the Ventura walk-off single, but I was at game 4. It was 3-0 in the series, and the Braves were up 2-1 in the bottom of the 8th inning. They bring John Rocker in, runners on first and second, Mets down the run. I don't remember if there's 1 out or 2 outs, but they bring John Rocker in, and we were third baseline, 20 rows up. I mean, I'll never forget that moment of him sprinting onto the field, people throwing shit at him, and of
throwing
course
batteries at him and stuff.
Everything
right?
John Rocker had said about Met fans and New Yorkers. Yeah. So throwing shit at him, and he comes running on the field. Eventually, runners advance to second and third. John Olerud hits a base hit up the middle, which was off Ozzie Guillen's glove. 2 runs come in to score. I believe it was Cedeno and Melvin Mora. And the Mets go up 3-2. Armando Benitez closes the game. The Mets get the win. That was the loudest I had ever heard a stadium in my life. It was just nuts. Like that roar and emotion off Rocker going into center field. And I'll never forget, because I saw with my 2 own eyes, John Rocker's walking back after the inning's over, and he puts in the air, if you're watching this on YouTube, 3-0. Because they were up 3-0. Like, you shut the fuck up, Met fans. Yeah, I just blew the lead here, but we're still up 3-0, and I'll never forget that moment.
Wow, that is cool. It's so funny hearing all these like old baseball players that are now that were managers, like famous people,
they're
like
all over the place.
Yeah, it's nuts, and especially kids in baseball, like Vlad Jr. Like everybody's a junior, Bichette Jr. Everybody's a junior, but I don't think Bichette's a junior, but whatever, his son. Anyway, so for me, now number two. Jets Colts playoff game 2002. Jets win 41-0. Spank Peyton Manning. As people know,
hold on, time out. I never said who I'd want to interview for that. I do apologize.
Yes,
it'd be Robin Ventura.
Okay. Oh, right. Did I say who I wanted to interview in mine in the Mets 9/11 game? I don't.
No,
think
you
so.
did not.
I don't think so. Well, for me, it would probably be Bobby Valentine. Just he would be fun. Mike Piazza has been done. All these guys have been done, but Bobby Valentine. I also didn't put much thought into that one. I forgot about that. But yeah,
that got out there. All right, go for it. I'm sorry.
So rewind. Number 2 for me is 2002 Jets Colts playoff game. Jets win 41-0. As people know who listen to this podcast, I had season tickets to the Jets, and I went to every game growing up. And in 2002, my dad had a kidney transplant. And he had 2 kidneys removed, and he had 1 put in. He was on dialysis for a while. He was on the list. It was looking bleak for a while. We didn't know if he was going to live, and he ended up getting a kidney transplant. So we had Jets tickets, obviously. And for this playoff game, my sister, we used to go, me, my dad, and my sister to every game. Sometimes my mom would come. We knew people around us to get a fourth ticket, et cetera, et cetera. But mostly she didn't come. So it was just me and my sister went because my dad couldn't make it, obviously. My mom stayed with my dad, and me and my sister went. We didn't bring a third person. We left the seat empty. And me and my sister went, and it was just a big party the entire time. And that was just incredible. It was just an incredible, incredible experience. And it was one of those games we'll never forget. And Peyton Manning will never forget it either. And
right.
So who I'd want to interview from that game is Curtis Martin, of course. And it would just be, he's my all-time favorite athlete. Him and Patrick Ewing are tied 1-1. No 1A, just 1-1. So
I think too, when Alex, you give the like the perspective around the game, what was going on with your family, and just getting into that moment, it adds even more to why it was so special beyond just the blowout win, right?
Right.
To get all of that combined.
Right.
It's
gave
also
him some
fun.
Happiness, and stuff. Yeah.
It's fun doing this because it got me thinking back and getting some emotions of like, I kind of forgot about that, which I thought was kind of cool to do too. My number two is Nets Pacers 2002 first round NBA Finals Game 5. This was best out of 5 at the time. I've talked about this game before. Nets were the 1 seed, Pacers were the 8 seed, but this was a very good Pacer 8 seed team. If you remember from years to follow, that's when the Pacers got really good. And they had all those battles against the Pistons. So Jermaine O'Neal's coming up. And that Game 5 went to double overtime. Nets were up 3 with about 6 seconds to go. Richard Jefferson was at the free throw line. First free throw missed. Second free throw missed. Rebound goes to Reggie Miller. Half court 3. Good. That was the last year before instant replay. With instant replay, it would have been called off, but there was no instant replay. He makes that shot. It goes into double overtime, and Nets eventually prevail. Jason Kidd was at his best, doing literally everything to keep this team afloat and moving and winning. He hit so many big shots. Forgotten was at the end of the first overtime. He had a shot to win the game. The ball went in and spun out. Nets second overtime just kind of blew out the Pacers. But I always just think back, like, what would that have been like if he made that shot in overtime? Would have been nuts. And it was the first time I can really remember the Meadowlands and then Continental being like, oh shit, this is not bad. That's probably the first time I ever remember going to a Nets game, and it was actually really fucking loud. And it took, Game 5 Pacers first round, but it did it. And that's my number 2.
That's really cool.
An interview from that game would be Jason Kidd. And it's cliche, but it's like, which is probably an ungettable guest.
He's your guy. Yeah. Like Patrick Ewing's my guy. He's your guy. So number 1 for me, Jets Jaguars playoff game, 1998. Well, it was in 99. It was 98 season. First ever playoff win in my life. Best Jets team I've ever seen. Better than those Rex Ryan years, because this team was the best. They won the division 12-4. Vinny Testaverde came in maybe the third or fourth game, and they were 1-3, and then they just went off on a run. And then he set the record for the most touchdown passes in a season for the Jets, and which was later broke by Ryan Fitzpatrick, which kind of pissed me off. And that was insane. That was the first time in my life, and I was in 8th grade, or was in 9th grade for that season, and first time in my life, growing up as a Jets fan, and I was always, teased as being the Jets fan, and they stink and this and that, not that the Giants were so great at the time, but whatever. And, kids growing up. And that was the first time I was like, oh my God. I remember being in the building and being like, oh my God, the Jets can win the Super Bowl. Yeah. And if they got through Denver, they probably would have. And, so because the Minnesota lost with the missed field goal at the end of the game in the conference championship, and they were amazing with Randy Moss that year, and they could have beaten the Falcons, and that hurt when they lost to Denver. But that game in general was just a big party, and I remember this one sign in the stadium, and there used to be all these jokes about the Jets sucking so much, the JETS, just end the season, and this one person had a big sign. It said, just imagine the Super Bowl. And it just gives me the chills right now thinking about that, because that moment was just incredible. And also I went with my sister and my mom, because my dad's friend was a cameraman and he actually was on the field, and my dad was able to go on the field with a press pass and stand on the field.
That's great.
And there's some video, if you see like a couple catches with Keyshawn Johnson in that game. Keyshawn went off. He had a rushing touchdown, he had a catching touchdown, and he had an interception to end the game on a Hail Mary. It was like the most incredible game for him, and he was my favorite player at the time. My dad's actually getting out of the way of Keyshawn, like going through the sideline, and after the game is in the locker room. We used to have the video. I don't know if we do anymore. He interviewed Pepper Johnson, and he's not like a media member or anything like that. And it was like really cool. And the guy I would want to interview, so I already said Curtis Martin in my last one. So the guy I want to interview is probably, I'll say Bill Parcells. I mean, that guy is just one of the most incredible coaches and executives in sports history.
Yeah.
I don't think he gets enough love because Bill Belichick kind of overshadowed him, but
yeah,
he mentored Bill Belichick. And from his that Jets team had Bill Belichick as a defensive coordinator and Bill Belichick's whole staff and Parcells people, and that team was ready to win a Super Bowl. It didn't work out in Denver, so
it's tough to win. It's incredibly tough. I mean, to win championships. I mean, it's just, like you and I have not seen the Mets. I mean, we were both very, very young.
Yeah,
it doesn't
count.
I have seen the Giants twice, which was amazing.
Yeah, I've seen none.
Mets I haven't seen. In the Syracuse I saw with the basketball team, but that was different because I just started liking the team that year. So there wasn't this. You got this anguish with the Knicks, with the Jets, with the Mets that would be a bigger payoff. I mean, just would. I mean, the payoff, nuts.
Yeah.
All right, cool. My number one will be that same Nets season, 2002 Nets Celtics Game 5, Continental Airlines Arena. If you remember from that series, the Celtics went up 2-1 when they beat the Nets in Boston after that 25-point collapse by the Nets in the fourth quarter. Nets great Game 4 win in Boston to make it 2-2. Come back to Jersey, and that was, pound for pound, the most fun I have ever had at a Nets game in my life. That Nets season before, they had 26 wins. They go into this year with 52 wins. They're the 1 seed. And then they have early leads. Boston cuts it to 1 with about 9 minutes left, and you're feeling nervous. Nets go on a 20-0 run in the fourth quarter, and it was just capped off by a Van Horn 3 to go up 17. Then they go back down the court. Tony Delk, I think, or Kenny Anderson. This is a left-handed runner. Rebound goes to Kidd, swings it out to Van Horn, who pump fakes. The whole crowd's like, shoot the fucking ball. Shoots the 3. Nets go up 20. And that was the loudest I've ever heard a Net game, and the happiest in a moment I had ever been for a Net game. I know they would go in to have finals wins, but the next season. But that moment there, I'll never forget. And Kenny Smith was sitting behind us.
Really?
There at the game. And my dad turns around to him. He's like, bet you never heard a Net game this loud. And Kenny laughed. And that is just like in my brain. That's exact cool moment. Nets went up 20. And if someone I would have to pick from that game would probably be Keith Van Horn, because I already said Jason Kidd. I don't think Keith gets enough credit for how well he played in some of those playoff series. And he's kind of the forgotten Nets on those teams. Like, Nets did a podcast about that season, and Van Horn's barely mentioned. He's a big part of that team. I'd be curious to get his perspective on that Pacers series and then those Celtics games, because Game 6, Nets go on to win in Boston to reach their first NBA Finals. In my opinion, he hits the biggest shot in Nets history, putting them up 6 with like 49 seconds left. I'd love to kind of chat with him about that. But yeah, that was already 22 years ago.
Wow.
Crazy.
Yeah, we're getting old.
Crazy. All right.
Also, that's a good list.
I thank you. Same with you. And people that are listening, tweet us your top 5 list of games you've been to. Would love to hear from you what yours are. Also, if you want to leave more room, because I know Twitter, you can run out of space, go to the Apple Podcast comments section. Leave it there. That's a good place to do it as well. If you want to go to Apple Podcasts, leave your comments. We'd love to hear your top 5. Maybe there's some
YouTube
overlap.
Also,
yeah, YouTube as well. Check it out. So I'm sure Alex would love to hear from other people.
Yeah, and some of my honorable mentions, I'll go rapid fire with them. I won't go into the whole details of them or interviews. Just there's a Jets-Bills game from 2008. That season's kind of lost because they didn't, do anything in that year. They went 9-7, whatever. They didn't make the playoffs. There's a game where they played the Bills and they were winning. They were losing, and all the Bills had to do was run the ball and run out the clock, and they end up rolling out the pass to J.P. Lossman, gets sacked and fumbles, and Sean Ellis picks it up, final seconds, runs it in for a touchdown, and the place went absolutely bananas. Everybody was like had their bags in their hands and ready to leave their jackets, and everybody was like, all right, this game's over, but like, let's see if the Bills get a first down. If they do, we're all out of here. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they fumble, and the place went absolutely berserk. And Sean Ellis, if you YouTube it, you'll see he ran over a referee, and a referee like face planted. So you could probably find that on YouTube. It was really funny. Next is Knicks Hawks. Or do you want to go back and forth? Do you have
no, you
any,
go for it. Rapid fire.
Yeah, so Knicks Hawks game 2, and they won that game. Partying in the streets, whatever. Knicks Heat playoff game from the late 90s. I don't remember the exact game, but I was in the building for one of them. They actually lost the game. There was no memorable moment, so it's not really there. But just being in the building for my first ever playoff game was exciting as a kid. Mets Cubs NLCS. Matt Harvey's mowing down the Cubs, and they're chanting Harvey, and it was freezing. But another game I went to with my dad, and that was incredible. And that Mets team should have won it all. And then the last one, honorable mention, is did you know, Mike, that there was an arena football team at Madison Square Garden? It was the New York City Hawks for 2 years.
So that's news to me.
There was in 1997, I want to say, or 98. I think it was 97. I was just looking it up. I went to the All-Star Cafe in Times Square with a friend of mine, and we won a trivia contest with the guy in the loudspeaker, and we won 4 tickets to go to an Arena Football League game. So I went with my dad and his friend, and he took me and my friend to the game. And it was fun, and it was just something I'll never forget. And I was trying to look it up because I remember, like a crazy person, that they scored 28 points. So one of the games, I was looking up their schedule, and I actually found the New York City Hawks schedule from 1997. They scored 28 points in 2 straight games where they lost 66-28 and 61-28 to either Texas or New Jersey. So it was one of those games.
New Jersey.
They sucked. They were 2-12, but they're a cool logo, and that'd be a cool shirt to get out there. I saw it on one of these sites, New York City Hawks. It's like purple and gold. It was a really cool logo. It's like Madison Square Garden colors, So
I'll probably find it somewhere. I didn't think your honorable mention was ending with that.
No, because it was just cool. It was like because I'll never forget it, because it's like, nobody knows there was an Arena Football League team in Madison Square Garden because they didn't exist.
No, they did not.
For very long. And
breaking news here on Bad Weather Fans. I'll give you the rapid fire list on my side. I didn't give a football game, so I'll give it one here. Went to Jets Giants on Halloween. Jets won right at the very end on like the last play, if that sounds familiar. I remember
they missed the field goal. Giants missed the field goal.
I think they missed something. I was young.
Young. Oh, never mind.
I was very young. This is years ago. I'm talking like somewhere in the 90s, somewhere in the mid 90s. I will say my lasting memory from that was being in traffic for 4 hours and missing Halloween. Because it was the 31st on a Sunday. We could probably find it somewhere. It was in there. That was a Giants loss, though, I do believe. Nets Pistons in Detroit. Went there in 2004. The crowd treated me like dog shit. I never forget that. This was before the Malice at the Palace.
So they were wild. Yeah.
They were.
They weren't tamed yet.
This the woman was saying things to me I will not say on this podcast.
Wow. And we can curse on the podcast too.
Yeah, I don't want to. I'm not saying what she was saying to me. That I remember that game. Yeah, we'll go with those two as my brain's kind of. Oh, and the last one, other honorable mention. I believe this was the 72-10 year for the Bulls, but maybe it wasn't. Nets beat Chicago.
Really?
In New Jersey. Yeah, they beat the Bulls. One of these years, one of the magical years for Chicago, they came into New Jersey and lost. Just like,
Yeah, it happens.
Good teams lose.
Overlooking the Nets, looking at the Knicks coming up. And
I don't know their schedule, but I'll never forget that. The Nets beat the Bulls that night. And it was like, oh, shit. We beat Jordan, which was kind of cool. And this was like Kendall Gill Nets. But I don't remember the exact year.
That's cool.
So, an honorable mention. Just people get on me. Why aren't you saying this? 2003 Nets Pistons game 4. Nets clinched to go to the NBA Finals. It was a home game to go to the finals, but they went to the finals the year before. They were up 3-0 in the series, and they just blew them out. So it didn't have like that pop in my emotions, but it was still. I went to a game. I should mention I did go to a Nets game where they clinched to go to an NBA Finals. So I should mention that. But for whatever reason, it just didn't hit me the same way. So I just have to be honest with the people.
Got to be honest. And there was actually, you reminded me of Jets Giants. There was a Jets Giants game that I wouldn't have made my top 5, but The one where the year with the Fitzpatrick year, and they went 10-6, and they missed the playoffs at the end of the Buffalo game. But the Jets Giants, obviously the Victor Cruz game I talk about all the time on this podcast. Like I was
Not
in the building. It was not on my list, but that was one of the most heartbreaking. We can do a heartbreaking list also in person.
We'll do that next. We can do that next time.
And
save it.
Yeah, but the emotions of that leading into the next 4 years when the next Jets Giants game happened with the Giants were the home team. I went with my friend of mine who had Giants season tickets, and I was talking so much shit that whole game. And then the Jets ended up winning with the Giants missing the field goal at the end. That was when Brandon Marshall caught that touchdown. Bilal Powell had the touchdown. That was a fun game to go to, but that wouldn't crack my top 5 anyway. But
let's do next time
heartbreakers.
It doesn't have to be games you went to. I think just in general.
Yeah,
because
okay.
I mean, if they overlap, they overlap. But
right.
I want to make sure that everybody gets to hear all the misery, even if it's on the couch.
I have all the Jets heartbreakers are on. I was there and that were home. So,
yeah, I've got a few.
Yeah.
That Durant toe game could be on the list, maybe.
Yeah, maybe a fake spike game could be on the list. But yeah, good times.
Now, see, I was in a good mood. Now I'm like, I was in a good mental state. All these amazing memories with family as a kid, these wins, and now I'm like, Kevin Durant's toe. Well,
remember your dad talked shit to Kenny Smith after a Nets win. So
it was more of it wasn't talk shit.
It was just like, well, he was a Knicks fan, so whatever.
Well, I was.
He's from Queens, so yeah, he grew up.
I was a Knicks fan in the building. That's
the famous picture. Well, I'll end it with this: the draft where the Knicks had the pick, and it was either between Mark Jackson and Kenny Smith. They were sitting next to each other, both New York City guys. The Knicks chose Mark Jackson, and Kenny Smith was like heartbroken. He had to go to like Sacramento or some shit.
He won the title with Houston, though.
Yeah, that's
beat the Knicks.
Stuck it to us. Yeah, stole a championship from New York. But he'll say Left Rock City got a title, so they kind of did. So New York didn't lose, but we lost. Knicks did.
Just like Isaiah Hartenstein will with the Thunder. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Had to get episode 227, Bad Weather Fans in the books. We want to hear your top 5. Let us know the top 5 games you've been to. Comment. We'll do it on YouTube, Apple, of course, on Twitter, at Nick Central, at Mike Delivers Pod. Alex, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.